DBS community, welcome back to another video here with Kyle Chris, and today I wanted to go over a Mechi list that I've been playing recently, playing on Untap a little bit, been playing at locals. Very fun deck. I think this might be the first, obviously outside of the anniversary box video that I put out, but I wanted to put out a list since we've seen some topping lists. I will actually have a more in-depth video once we get the ban list. Because I do think this is a contender to win multiple nationals. I believe the Asian nationals or an Asian regional. It was either an Asian regional or a nationals took place, and this deck did end up winning. It's won a few events. It's topped, but I'm gonna put a more in-depth video out pre-Nats, since I'm not going to Nats. Basically, all the decks that I was going to play, I'm gonna put out videos for, but also just Black in general. I think this is the best position that Black has been in since, I don't know, probably since the game's existence. And it comes to actually being able to make it to that finals. I definitely think it's possible. Definitely in NA as well, and I think in EU. Worlds, obviously, we'll have to see. But Mechikabura is insanely powerful right now. So we're going to go over the deck. I will have a deck profile down, or like a deck list down below, so you guys can check that out. Now, like I said, this is just a list I've been playing for locals. The more in-depth version of the deck we'll put out at a different time. These videos are definitely pretty on, kind of on the longer side. So if you like this type of videos, obviously, stay tuned to watch. If not, sorry, I don't make this super short deck profile videos. So Mechi is a wish leader. When you attack, so you get to search for your Dark Dragon Balls, and when you have all 7 is when you can awaken, which is probably the worst part about the deck, is not being able to awaken on at your own terms. You have to, you can awaken on your own terms, but you have to awaken when you have 7 balls. So there's no like secondary awakening condition, which kind of sucks. Now on this side, draw when you attack, and then you can discard a card or bottom deck a card to either gain control over a battle card 4 or less, or you get triple attack, which is kind of the big thing you want to do, and every time you swing you do draw. So kind of the play that you would do is you would go in the triple attack, more than likely turn 2, turn 3, and once you've attacked twice, you'll restand, and then you'll go into your first Z battle card, or Z card from your deck, which is going to be your Dark King Mechikabura. This is a 20k base, which definitely helps out the deck. Then, when you attack, you discard a card and draw 2, which is actually very helpful. There are some cards you want to get into the drop area. Then, next effect, you can bottom deck a card, and then you gain control over a battle card from your opponent's. I'm sorry, you play, very specific wording, you play a battle card from your opponent's warp 5 or less with its skills negated for the game, and you restand an 8-drop Mechikabura, which has a lot of implications in this deck. This is kind of the big reason why the deck actually is much more playable now. I'll move that over here. So this is definitely the big key to the deck. We have 2 of the Toas. Toa allows you to go into the Toa chain, which is has been known about, I think, most of the year. Since the Toa Champ card came out, this is kind of what you play in most Demon Realm decks. It just gives you some stability in the mid game. Just gives you another option to play, and you have to bottom deck a card in order to play it. We have 2 of the Gokus. Probably the best Z battle card for Black now. Took over the spot for Boo. Plays warps anything, and then you can remove 10 cards between your drop and your warp from the game, and then it gets 10k in double strike. So it's a 1-drop, 2Z energy, warp something on play, and then becomes a 25k double striker for 1 energy. So this is a fantastic card for Black. You're going to play it in every Black deck. 1 first Kamehameha, Mighty Blast. You can play this or Final Kamehameha from the Vegito starter deck. I think either one is fine in this deck. That one you can only give battle cards that are 6 energy 6 cost or more 10k. This just gives any black card, and then puts 3 cards back from your warp into the drop. And you also can use it on defense as a give a card 10k and you remove a 5 cost warp it. So it's pretty good for like a little battle trick as well. Also, this is kind of what you always put a Z battle card down in like yellow matchups, because you can just tap this down for like riposte and stuff like that. And we have one Boo just to finish out the Z deck. You can run this or Vegeta Surmounting. I think Boo's just a little bit better. It's a 2-cost, it's a 1-cost battle card, but you pay 2 Z energy to absorb anything, and then it becomes a 25k battle card. So pairing this with like the Goku is just great. But Boo is only limit 1, so you can't like multi-play these. You can play 2 Gokus in a turn. You just can't. Yeah, you can play 2. You can do 2 of the Goku effects in 1 turn. You just can't do 2 of the Boo. So we went down to 1. All right. So main deck. This is 57. I would say between like 56, 57 is probably where you want to be for most of these decks. It just seems to be the best, like for consistency purposes. So we have the balls. 5k combo also can warp a battle card that's 1 or less, which is kind of interesting. If your opponent plays like BMS against you, which is really stupid, you can just remove it. And then this card allows you to cycle this and a ball or a demon, and then you draw 2 and your opponent warps a card from the drop area. Also, make sure you guys remember, I see a lot of people doing that. I watch on stream from the Florida Regional. People forget that this card, when it awakens, you warp a battle card from your opponent's drop area. That is actually very relevant, so people need to remember to do that. But this card warps something from the drop. I see this a lot with Mechikabura players, is that people will rush really quickly into their awaken. And you don't need to do that. There's a lot of decks, like if you play against like Pan, for instance, right? You don't need to rush into doing this. Like Pan's going to aggress you regardless. So being able to use this to warp things from their drop area after the turn, like, or swinging into battle cards, killing them, and then using this to warp it, like, you got to be able to utilize that as much, right? Like being able to just put more stuff in the warp will generally help you in the long run, and just remove potential resources that they can potentially be using, sparking effects, comboing from the drop effects, playing out cards from the drop area effects. There's a lot of different things you can do. So we got 7 balls. And then the 1-drops, we have 2 of each of the Mechis. So Mechi here is a 1-drop cantrip, and then you can bottom deck a card. I'm trying to fix this light real quick. You can overlord a card with Servant, and then if that card has when you bottom deck a card with Servant, you get to play out a token. So cool 1-drop. Actually, I think in most games it's actually not being utilized as much. So in this current build of the deck, I might just cut these 2 down and go up to 3 of this Mechi. So this Mechikabura, you grab a ball from your deck, add it to your hand, and you add another ball from your deck to your drop. So you just cycle out 2 balls. And then you can warp this card from the drop. For 3 energy, you warp a card from your opponent's drop area, and then you get to play out an 8-cost Mechi from your hand or your drop with Barrier. So this is actually really cool. You can play out, there's technically 3 targets you can play. So we'll go over those later on in the deck. But yeah, I think this is going to go up to 3. This card's great. You play it, and then like turn 1 you play it, and then next turn like you Z charge it, and now you have the ability of using it for the Toa. You can use it for your Z battle card, your Z leader if you're going to get aggro down really quickly, or you can use it for the first Kamehameha. Any of those. The other 1-drop we play for the Toa. If you play a primarily Demon Realm archetype, you're going to want to play this card. If you're starting to tech in things like Super Fu, Cumber combination, if you're going to be teching in other just black staples, I would remove this card because you're going to whiff quite a bit. But this searches out any Demon Realm or Demon Realm race card you have in your deck as a top 5. And you can also play out a Skillless off the other effect, which nobody does. But being able to search out just any card, I think it's pretty beneficial. Let me see if I can fix this camera real quick. It's being kind of weird. All right, yep. So just top 5 searches out any Demon Realm. So all the Demon cards you see here, and then any Demon Realm race you see in the deck at this, like further on in the video, you can search out with this card. Also has a Toa as well, which is important. So for the 1-drop cantrips, you have 4 Salsa and 4 Shroom. Both have different effects. This Salsa can only be played if you have Dragon Balls, 2 or more Dragon Balls in the drop. So if you use your leader effect to remove the Dragon Balls, you can no longer play this guy, for 1. But when you play it, you also get to cycle out a 2 balls, up to 2 balls from your deck, put them in the drop. Even if you don't do that, you play for 1, you still have to shuffle your deck, so make sure you do that. It is literally in it's in the card text, so just read your card and do it. And then when this card's played, your opponent warps a card from their hand and draws a card. Then when this card attacks, they warp a card from their drop, and then you draw a card, regardless of if they do that. Then you can't activate autos on this card for the turn, so you can't play another one and do the same thing. So if you're gonna play 2 of these, play both at the same time. That way the opponent warps 2 and then draws 2, and then you can swing with 1 to get the draw off. You won't get the draw off the other one. So just keep that in mind. Shroom, here, if your opponent has 2 more energy, you can play this guy, and when it swings, it warps to 7 or less. And then if your opponent has 2 or more cards in the warp, you draw a card. So this card's fantastic later. Like I said, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, you're going to probably play this card every single turn. And it's limit 1, which kind of sucks. I wish they wouldn't have did that. Playing it's fine if it's limit 1, but the auto being limit 1 is just kind of silly. They should have allowed you to be able to do that as many times as you want. 2 of the crit salsas. Great target to pitch off of your ball. You play it. Again, I saw a lot of people doing this. I saw someone on stream do it, where they play it, and then your opponent's supposed to warp a card and draw 1. So make sure they do that. And it's a 15k crit. So you can play from the warp, or I'm sorry, from the drop or your hand for 1. And when it's removed from the battle area, it gets removed from the game instead. So great thing about this card is you play this card, like let's say you pitch a ball. You do a ball effect, pitch the salsa off of it, swing with it. Your opponent's more likely, because you can play this when you have 2 energy, your opponent's more likely going to take the crit. They put a battle card on the drop, then now you use your other effect for your ball to warp the card they just put into the drop area. It's a very simple little sequencing thing, but this card's pretty cool. So 2's fine. You can upgrade it to 3. I think if the game slows down a little bit, we see a lot more Gogeta. This card's going to be fantastic. Like Gogeta and Android 21, this is a great card to play. It's more likely your opponent's not going to combo out of it. If they do, they have to waste a super combo, or they need to waste the pseudo super combo 21 card. So it's just good way to get rid of resources. 3 of the promo Kais. Warp card from your opponent's hand when you play it, or if you gain control over a card. And it's limit 1. So again, kind of limited the card. Also, you can only play this card if you have 2 or more Dragon Balls. If you use your leader effect, it's dead. It's also not a demon, so you can't search it. 4 is a little too much. 3 is probably just enough. I think 2 might actually be a better number for it. The Toa package, which I talked about this in the last video. I was actually totally against it. Now I'm sort of slowly kind of changing my mind. I played it a lot. Actually, the last locals we just had, but 2 cost to play it, warps the card, gains 5k. It's a 20k crit. You also can use play off the Toa from the Z deck to play it for 1, and then you swap into this guy. It's just a good like little pressure play. Even there's games where I've tapped 2 for this guy just to warp something, and then swap into this guy to if your opponent has a unison on board, if they have 4 more markers, they either have to warp 2 cards, 2 battle cards from the board, and or their hand. If they don't, you gain control over the unison. So this is a good way, especially in like if not a lot of people play like Gotrunks anymore, because the deck's just kind of, it's not a bad deck, it just, you know, hasn't really changed much. But in that matchup, this card's very good. Decks that play like 3-drop unison, so like 17, not 17, what's the deck called? 21 expert deck, being able to gain control over the Zamasu, or they have the warp cards. Just a good little hand instruction tool, and then you can keep cycling this card. So you have 2 copies of this. As long as you can play this guy down, you can just cycle into the Toa. It's pretty cool. 4 Vegeta super combos. A little bit different from the last video. The Toa's cool. The one that you would play if you have Sparking 5, but Vegeta is just a better super combo. It's just better to have just a cycle effects. It's kind of hard to just not play this card. For the Mechis, we have 3 of the new Mechis and then 1 of the old Mechi. This one's the best one to play off of the 1-drop. You can play from the drop. It's a double striker with deflect, gains barrier, and then it board wipes your opponent and you gain 2 cards. Other than that, though, tapping 4 with this card is just not going to happen a lot of the time, so 3 is just a little bit better. This guy is fantastic. If you ran 4 with this card, I wouldn't be mad at you. You tap 2, you play it, choose opponent's battle card, gain control over that card, switch it to active mode, and then gated skills, of course. And then it warps the card from your opponent's board, ignoring barrier, and then they warp a card from their hand, and it's a deflect and dual attack, and it's 30k. So this card is crazy. This is actually, this card here, I would say especially, makes the deck viable late game. This card just makes your late game pressure insane. Being able to just remove literally almost any card in the game as long as it doesn't have barrier, and then warping the card that has barrier, and then warping a card from your opponent's hand. And being a 5k combo is even more important too. So, and again, these are searchable. These also can be restood off of your Z leader effects. That's something to keep in mind as well. So for our defensive package, we have a lot of defense. We got a lot of cards here for defense. So we have 2 Poutine Floodgates. This is not seeing a lot of play in decks. I think that's wrong. There's not a lot of yellow currently being played. There's going to be yellow at Nats. So if you play against yellow deck, you're just going to side this card out because it's just going to get T-blowed. But against almost any other matchup, this card's going to come down. Black, probably not, but like, so like blue, red, and green, if they're not multicolor decks and they can't play the counterplay for free, this card's gonna be great. So it comes down for 2, negates the attack, and then if it hits the board, you may bomb deck a card. If you do, your opponent has to warp 2 cards every time they attack. And I'm pretty sure it's just any time they attack. Yeah, they can't attack unless they warp 2 cards. So it's your version of Topo. Man, play this card. It's very, very good. There's like the Pan matchup. This card, or if you use like Protector of the People, those 2 cards basically will win you the early game against Pan. As longer the game goes against Pan, you just win. So it's kind of sad when you see people lose against Pan, because this matchup you should not lose against Pan if you tech against aggro. This is one of those cards. Like, I'm gonna pay 2 for this card. Like, there's games where like I will awaken. I'll have 7 balls and I will not awaken. I'll keep like 2 energy up. And then I will play this card, and then if they somehow counterplay it, then I can awaken and then use my energy defensively for other things. So, just like I said, we'll go over more of that in the Mechi breakdown when we go over Nats. 1 Gohan, I think you still need to run it. It sucks because it's not searchable. I would realistically like to run like 2 or 3 of these, which is probably why I like playing Cumber so much, because this card's searchable. But you can combo it to Z charge and warp something 4 or less, which comes up a lot, or you just use it as a negate for battle cards from the drop or the warp. For the extra cards, 2 Petrification, 3 Darkness Judgment, 2 tokens, and 2 Power Bursts. These are all your negate lineups. A lot of negates here. Petrification still being probably the best negate in the game right now, just to shut off everything. Darkness Judgment can be used as a flat hard negate, or you can use it as a bean on defense, which is probably where it's better to be used. 2 token negates and 2 power bursts. These can arguably be 3 power bursts in 1 token, or 3 tokens 1 power burst, or just completely cut one or the other. If you have the ability of awakening at 7 or 8 life, power burst is far better, since you're going to have the sparking ability for it, and then you can use it just to grab cards back and then slowly take your life down whenever you want to. But definitely have to run all of these. You just have to run a combination of them. Whatever the combination works for you in the best in the main deck. And again, for like Nats, it's going to be best of 1. Pretty sure it's best of 1 pre-side. So you shouldn't have to worry about a lot of the stuff. 1 Super Kamehameha. I was just running 1 for most locals, because there's not like the yellow players that I play against, like I'm going to have this. But I would say probably running 2. So if you take out like a power burst or a support, you can run 2 of these in the main deck. For our free plays, so we run 1 Vegeta and then 1 Ginyu. So I have yet to see a Mechi list running this card, and I think people forgot about it. I don't think the card got an errata, to my knowledge, so I don't know why people are not playing it. Vegeta, we know what it is. Overrealm, warp something to 30k, right? It's fine. Ginyu here, this is basically your version of King Piccolo, a new ruler. And I don't know why people aren't playing it. So it's very specific text. So you have to have gained control over a card, which in this deck, there are only 2 cards that technically gain control over a card. So 1 is going to be this effect here, which is your leader. So your leader says you gain control over the card. The other one is going to be the first effect of the activate main on the Mechikabura, which says you gain control over a card. So reading the Ginyu, because I know you guys can't read the card here. So choose one of the battle cards you gain control over from your opponent with one of your card skills. Place it in the owner's drop area, then place this card from your hand. So the leader effect or the Mechikabura, you can basically use this card to play for free. It is a 20k double striker that you get to play for free. On your opponent's turn, it loses 10k, no one cares. But the combination of being able to play these 2 for free just gives you another Overrealm. And it's also not limited 1. So if you have 2 of these in your hand, you can, I'm pretty sure you can just play both. Yeah, you can, if you have 1 off of your leader effect and 1 off of this effect, or just you've had another one on board, you can just sack these off and just play these. and now you have 2 double strikers you can play essentially. So, but I definitely would say at least 1. Now if you play, so this card here, so if you play, where's it at? If you play this card, this doesn't technically gain control over the cards. This plays cards, and also the Z leader also plays a card, so it doesn't gain control over it, so you can't play the Ginyu off of it. And the 8-drop here anyways says you can't play non-black battle cards, so you can't even play this, use your leader effect, and then play this. You have to use it beforehand. So just some small things like that, but I think this is definitely a card that any Mechi deck should be playing. It just allows you to extend just a little bit more, and it's a free double striker, so it's never a bad thing to have. So secret we have been playing is Dark Mechikabura. I know the gentleman who won the Asian Nationals, I believe, or regional, the last one, playing this, shocked a lot of people. I definitely think this is weird. Mechi, like I said, I'm not going to go too far into it, but Mechi has a ton of secret rares you can play. We'll go over those farther in the future in one of those videos. But counterplay costs 1 if you have 7 or more cards between you and your opponent in the warp, which is why we want to get so many cards in our opponent's warp. Hits anything 7 or less, comes into play. Then then the rest of the counter text says the card cannot be removed. It cannot be removed from the battle area by skills. So, let's see. Yep, for the turn. Then you place 1 battle card, right? Place with 1 battle card from your drop or warp underneath this card, up to 7. Alright, it's up to 7. It's up to every card that's in your opponent's Z deck. So if they have 5 cards in their Z deck, you can use it up to 5. Then the auto on this card is when your opponent's battle card, when your opponent attacks, or if this card attacks, you detach a card from underneath it and you warp a card on board. Choose out to one of your opponent's battle cards and warp it. So what's cool is that this can actually be used as a floodgate. You can counterplay a card coming into play, have this card just sit on board, and as long as the card doesn't have barrier, this card's just going to warp it because it can't be removed. So that's really cool. So you can technically use it as a counterplay and a floodgate for the turn. If your opponent's playing like a wide-boarded, a wide deck, that's pretty interesting. Also, you can use it to stop floodgates on your turn. So if your opponent goes to floodgate, you can play this. Now you have a dual attacker, 40k, that can also swing and warp stuff. So you can, like, if your opponent like token the gates, you can, when this card attacks, you can just warp the token. You can warp blockers. It's a very, very good card. It's also searchable again. This card can also be restood off of the Z leader. So you can also restand off the Z. I think you can restand off the Z leader, right? No, you can't. Can't restand off the Z leader because it's not 30k. So you can only restand the other 2 off there. So, but this card swings twice. Searchable. I think it's pretty good. So the Z deck. So the Z deck, and this is probably my favorite part about the deck, is when we get into the Nats breakdown for this deck. I think the Z deck is where this and like Prism, I think, are the 2 black decks that you can really tech out your side deck, and that's kind of where you see your experience with the deck is kind of how you use in the side deck. So like typical stuff, Petrification, Koitsukai, these are kind of like main staple stuff. I think this card, Ghost Warriors, will probably end up getting cut for some stuff we'll talk about in a different video. I just don't see the need for this card anymore. Bardock, this is pretty, I would say, standard stuff. I think you're going to slide this into almost any matchup. If you main deck this card too, that's fine. Deborah, pretty simple. Again, this card's searchable. I think this is just a very good, solid card to play just because it's searchable and it's on color. It can be pitched off of your balls if you absolutely need to. You cannot play this if you pitch it off your own effect, so please don't cheat like some people, please. Two Black Smoke. I think Black Smoke will end up making a comeback next set, or next format. Wish this card was only a black specific. I saw the alternate art had a black specific energy on there. It should just be a black specific card. All of these cards, like Koitsukai, Deborah, these should all be black only staples, but that's just my opinion. The last 4 cards, so we have 2 Broken Seal. Again, another card that's going to gain a lot more value going into next set. Again, another card that should only be black played. But you can call a card, can't be played. But then also you can activate mana, you can grab a Dragon Ball from your deck. So because you do have Dragon Balls in your deck, you actually can technically play this as a way of going into your deck and grabbing out Dragon Balls. And it's searchable as well, and it can be pitched off of the ball if you need to. Last two cards is Preparing to Fight, Demon God Shroom. This is a card that has seen no play. I'm pretty sure I'm probably one of the only people who've played this card. I have a video. I've never posted it, but in the last regional, I played this card a few times, and it definitely does its job. So this is kind of the Demon Realm version of Shin, without the draw. So what this card says is that if you have 3 or less energy, when your opponent plays a battle card with an energy cost greater than the current energy, it cannot attack for the turn. So if the card has Barrier, it doesn't matter because the card doesn't choose. It just requires the first card being played. It checks its energy, and then if it has an energy cost higher than its current energy, they can't attack with it. So this is being a searchable card you can get off of Toa. It's a demon, so technically it can be pitched for the ball effect, which is something you definitely need as well. You can grab it off Power Burst. But for the first 3 turns, if you keep one of these guys on board, every time your opponent plays a battle card, the first battle card, it cannot attack if it's higher energy cost, which is great. So while Shin only hits 7 or less, this card hits anything. So I won't spend too much time on this, but like for example, against Green Gohan, right? You can play BMS. It taxes the Green Gohan player. They have to kind of play around it. This card stops your opponent from being able to attack with the Vegeta just outright. So like if your opponent, you play this card, your opponent plays a Vegeta, cool. Your opponent can't attack with Vegeta. Your opponent plays the Crit Ape. Guess what? They can't attack with it. So it kind of forces your opponent to play around this. Also slamming this card down at the end of your turn and then like passing on turn 3. And then they go into a Gohan and they just can't attack with the Gohan. It's pretty nice. So it's just the first battle card that's higher than the current energy cost. Against like Red, against Pan, you play this card down on like after you attack, you play this card down. Pass. Now they can't go into. They have to sort of play around it. So like the first card they play, especially against like Pan. Pan's a huge. It's gonna be a huge deck for Nats. But this card going into the Pan matchup, as long as they don't Gohan it, it's gonna come down and it's gonna stop them from being able to attack with one card, which is huge because that one card, Pan needs every attacker. If they're an aggro deck, they need to be able to attack with everything. And if they can't attack with something and it's just used for combo power, they're actually not getting the same amount of usage out of it. So, like I said, this card's gonna be huge. We'll talk about it more in a different video, but I think this is a card that any Mechikabura deck should be siding. Other black decks, maybe, but in this deck, because it's this deck and any Demon God deck, I will say, because it's searchable. So that is the deck. Like I said, I will leave a link down below for the video for the deck list if you guys want to check out like the actual cards themselves. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.